This is Duke University.
So we saw today that the CEOs of the financial institutions that got the major amount of the TARP money showed up and testified before Congress. And the atmosphere was electric. People were furious at these banks because the first tranche of this TARP is generally viewed as money wasted. And the main problem is that the money was doled out to these financial institutions, yet there was very little loan creation. So if you look at the overall numbers, you'll see that loans are down, maybe 3 or 4%. And how could that be possible? Well, on one side, people would say it's a recession, and in a recession, loans go down. But that is not a fair argument, because there's something different about this recession. And that is that the government has pumped billions of dollars into the financial system. And the purpose of doing this was to increase the amount of loans. And that has not happened. So it was very difficult for these CEOs to defend themselves. And in my opinion, the loan data is misleading. And this is the reason. That when the commercial paper market fell apart, large institutions, large corporations went to their banks, and the banks accommodated or replaced the commercial paper with short-term bank loans. In order for the banks to actually do that, they squeezed all the smaller customers. The small and medium-sized business was squeezed. And the small and medium-sized business is actually very important for the economy. These are the businesses that drive growth opportunities, that drive employment. They're the ones that are getting squeezed. And the recent survey that Duke University did with CFO magazine showed evidence to support this idea that the small and medium-sized businesses are not only being squeezed, but they're taking destructive actions to deal with the squeeze. So they're canceling projects, they're laying off productive people, and these are the type of projects we actually want funded. And it's not actually happening. So the one question that should have been asked today in the hearings is, what about small and medium-sized businesses? Because it is clear that they are bearing the brunt of this credit crunch, and we are shooting ourselves in the foot. There's another huge problem, and it wasn't dealt with directly. Let me just read a comment that the CEO of Bank of America made, Kenneth Lewis. So he said, quote, "We are doing our best to manage the interests of shareholders, consumers, and taxpayers." Well, there's something wrong with this. Bank of America and Citibank each took $45 billion of cash. In addition, the government backstopped over $100 billion in troubled assets for these firms. Without this cash injection, the value of the equity of Citigroup and Bank of America would be zero. The shareholders are lucky that there's any value whatsoever. The major stakeholder in Bank of America and Citigroup is the US taxpayer. Yet we're number 3 on the list, and that doesn't make any sense. So management is acting in the best interest of the shareholders. Shareholders number 1. And that doesn't make any sense because they are actually a smaller stakeholder than the government. This is the problem, that this money was doled out to the financial institutions, yet there was no enforcement mechanism to get them to do the things that were best for the American economy, not the shareholders of Bank of America or to Citigroup. That doesn't make sense, and it doesn't set well with the American people. The problem that we've got is that there's no real enforcement mechanism, and indeed the announcement by Treasury Secretary yesterday and the 7-page fact sheet detailed some things like executive compensation. They have to report the amount of loans, but there's no real enforcement mechanism other than appearing before Congress every so often. That just doesn't cut it. If the American taxpayer is going to put up hard-earned cash to bail out the mistakes these institutions have made, we deserve some enforcement. We deserve these institutions to do the thing that is best for the American taxpayer and the American economy, not the narrow interest of some particular shareholder of these firms that is lucky not to have a zero value right now. So this testimony, I think, scratched the surface. I still am very worried that Congress doesn't get it, that at this point we need to take more aggressive actions to make sure these firms, these financial institutions, are serving the American people because we are the major stakeholder.